Last week, James Harden, he opted into his final year with the Philadelphia 76ers, choosing against free agency with the hope that they would eventually trade him. But Ramona, I guess we have to start here. Was it a mistake, do you think, for Harden opting into his contract? Did that limit options here?
Yeah. I mean, I think it locked him into getting $35 million this year, but it took him out of doing an extension with either the Sixers or any team he's traded to. And you have to think about what they would really have offered him had he waited a little longer, had he waited till free agency. My sense is it probably would have been 2 to 3 years. Maybe the third year is a team option, but let's say it's $30 million a year. That's still, let's just conservatively say it's around $90 million. You have to make that back now. And you're going to hit free agency at the age of 35 next year. So whether that's in Philly, whether that's after a trade to another team, 35-year-old free agents, it's hard to make over the next 2 years. Can he make that back? And I think just opting into that contract without another team that you have set up or without this idea that you can do an extension, that's tough.
Perk, where do you fall on this?
He has made some horrible decisions over the last 3 years. And it comes back. Can you put us on the 5 box? Because I want to have an open box discussion since I can't be at the desk. But it comes back to what Richard was bringing up the other day. And he said, what do James Harden want? He obviously don't want money because he didn't turn down a deal from Houston and the Brooklyn Nets. Do he want a championship? We don't know if he want that because he left KD and now he's trying to leave Joel Embiid, which I believe is his best chance at winning the championship. So my advice to James would be, like Ramona just said, you're 35, you're going to be 35. Your best option, and I feel like Philly has all the leverage because you can't get a disgruntled James Harden at this point. He has to come in and perform. So I would keep him. I would play the cards. I would run it back. I would see if he would buy into what Nick Nurse is saying in that locker room and just go from there.
Richard, what do you think?
Perk left your speechless.
I'm saying
We're
Perk said it
all
right.
hanging together here.
It's I don't know what James Harden wants. I don't know James personally. I'm a fan of his game. I've played against him for years, but I don't know what James wants. Nobody wants. Like Perk said, does he want money? He turned down a $100 million extension or maybe more from Houston. He turned down a $150 million 3-year extension. He would have probably been close to the highest paid player in the NBA, if not the highest paid player. And then look, if Kyrie wasn't working out or some situation, you trade Kyrie, you fill it up, you're still paired to Kevin Durant. And who you know. Okay, fine. I don't want to go there. I want to go to Philly. Okay, you're paired with the MVP. And now, again, there are probably things behind the scenes, whether it's broken promises, different things that we don't know about. So I'm not putting this 100% on James Harden. But if you turn down $250 million over the next 2 years or over the past 2 seasons, and now all of a sudden you're stuck in a $35 million situation with a team that can't extend you anymore, you're going to be disgruntled. There's no way. We know who James Harden is. So to me, I don't know what he wants. I'm looking forward to sitting back, watching it play out, and then talking about it.
Well, Zach, what do you think? Do you think that James Harden's relationship with the 76ers, is it salvageable?
Look, I'm going to try to be more positive. I'm trying to be more positive in life.
Yeah.
So let me try to preface this. Let me preface this with a couple of things. Number one, I thought James Harden should have been an all-star last year, and he would have been an all-NBA on my ballot had he not missed the last part of the season. I thought he was great. As far as wanting out of Brooklyn, I think that all goes back to Kyrie Irving's decision not to get vaccinated and the ripple effects that had on the team. That said, James Harden opted into his contract. He signed a document that said, I am a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. I get paid $35 million, but I'm a Sixer. That signature hitting the paper gave more control of the situation to the Philadelphia 76ers. And right now, I don't sense a huge amount of activity in the James Harden trade market. I don't sense a lot of teams making aggressive offers to the Sixers. I don't sense a whole lot of anything really going on out there right now. It feels like kind of a stalemate to me. Maybe Ramona can contribute some more reporting on that after I'm done here. But I will say this.
After you're done.
Stalemate, that inactivity, I'm sorry to say that that's kind of the price you pay for the last memory of James Harden every season is a bad elimination game for his team. A flame out in an elimination game. That, combined with his age, he's getting up there now in years, and the fact that any team that gets him now Why would they trust him not to ask out after a year, to grow disgruntled after a year or 2 years? This is the pattern now that's established itself, and I think James is kind of paying the price in the trade market for all the stuff that's happened over the last 3 or 4 years, even though some of it, like I mentioned with the Brooklyn situation, was not ultimately or originating with his fault anyway.
And Zach, I want to start with you here because the Suns, they've had a pretty hot offseason, but with all of their moves, are they the biggest threat to dethrone Denver in the West?
It's still too early to say, but I think there's going to be a lot of depth in the Western Conference. I think Phoenix has a claim. The Lakers, with their offseason moves, have a claim. The Warriors are still there. The Kings got better, and on and on and on. I think I'd probably lean Suns right now just because of the firepower, but I think the Lakers roster makes a little more sense and is a little more well-rounded, and that's why I keep going back to one guy on Phoenix, and it's DeAndre Ayton, because he is their roadmap to a workable defense, to rim protection, to rebounding, to interior scoring, to the kind of balance that I think you just have to have if you're going to win 3 playoff series in the West. And I think the Lakers, with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, as long as they're healthy, they have that kind of inside-outside balance on both ends of the floor. And I think just no matter how much scoring firepower you have, no matter how much pick-and-roll firepower you have, and the Suns have more of that than anybody, I think you need that balance. So I'd lean Suns, but I'm looking at Ayton and what they can get out of Ayton, either from him, from rehabbing him, from him and Frank Vogel working together, or down the line, if they trade him, what they get for him.
Park?
Let's not overthink this for the last time. Yes, they are the biggest threat to the Denver Nuggets. Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. Can we all let that sit in for a second and think about who the hell they are and what the hell they done in this league? That's the first thing. Second of all, I believe that DeAndre Ayton will come back a better basketball player because of Frank Vogel. He didn't get along with Monty Williams. I think they did a serious upgrade with getting Eric Gordon at the veteran minimum coming in off the bench. We forget about another guy that they have on the bench over there, Damian Lee. He actually won the championship with Golden State and actually played some key moments in that postseason when they actually won it. And then I go down to Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel, one of the most underrated coaches in the game, because we look at what happened with the Lakers towards the end, and I still to this day, and I'm standing on it, he shouldn't deserve to lose his job. But think about what he did with that group, with Dwight Howard and Rondo and LeBron and AD down in the bubble. They won a championship. And then you go down to when he had Paul George in Indiana with Roy Hibbert and those guys. They actually could have won the championship, in my opinion, but they actually just met up with the Heat, and the Heat was standing in their way. So they have put a great group together. They have the right coach there. They have the right assistants in place. They have everything going into training camp that they need, and it's going to be hard to stop this team every single night in the 7-game series.
So I made the mistake of picking the Memphis Grizzlies last year to break through, and I'm going to do it again.
All right.
I love what they did. I love what they did in getting Marcus Smart. I mean, and Derrick Rose to be the veterans in that locker room, but Marcus Smart is going to be a good player for them. And I think I know we all talk about all the headlines out of Memphis have been bad lately, right? With Ja Morant, the suspension, and all that. He's going to be back. And this team was on the verge of a breakthrough 2 years ago. Last year, obviously, they had some growing pains. They had Ja Morant's situation, they had injuries, but they listened to what everyone said, which is that you need some leadership, and they went out and got 2 great leaders. The idea of Derrick Rose coming back to Memphis where he played his college ball, and Marcus Smart now in that backcourt, I love what the Grizzlies did.
I still think it's the Lakers, in my opinion. They went to the Western Conference Finals, and they are exponentially better than they were last year. That's just the fact. When Zach said it's the roster construction, if you look at over the past few champions, it's been roster construction. That's been the key. It hasn't been the top-heavy super teams that we saw in Golden State, that we saw in Cleveland or Miami. No, it's been Toronto, well-built. It's been Milwaukee, well-built. It's been Denver now, well-built. The Lakers are building a well-built team very similar to what they had in 2020. They have depth across the board. They have shooting across the board. They have wing, 3 and D across the board. So, yes, they are a threat. I don't think the Phoenix Suns are done. I think a lot of these teams aren't done, but the Lakers are done. And if I'm looking at a finished product, right now the Lakers have the quote-unquote best finished product to start the season.
I like what the Lakers did. I feel like Beal, Booker, Gordon, Durant, and Ayton, though, as a closing lineup, that is nasty.
Got to get to closing.
But you got to see how it's going to look on defense.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.